part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright. You're listening to the Krypton Report.
Before we begin today's podcast, I'm going to get real for a second. I'm actually outside taking a walk. It's what I do when I have stuff on my mind. This is kind of a moment of silence for a podcast that I have been looking forward to recording for a while. They kept getting delayed. As some of you may know, a podcasting friend of ours, Charlie Esser, had passed away. He was the host of Super Connectivity and part of the Capes of Lunatics. I just did a tribute podcast to him. For years, Charlie always defended Superman 3. And I always said, Charlie, we're going to have to actually podcast on it, you and I. It's like a really good conversation. And I put it off because we didn't line up our schedule when we did our commentary track for it. And then this year was the 40th anniversary. And I remember I was sitting in the car and it popped up that it was the 40th anniversary on my phone. I was like, oh, yes, I knew it was coming up. Now I got to email Charlie. Let's get this going. You know, I always say that that's my least favorite. And I was like, I'll rewatch it and Charlie and I can discuss it. And just moments later, I found out he passed. Now, what I want to say is just don't take people for granted. You know, podcasting is cool because I connect with people from all over the place. I mean, you've heard me tell my stories of how I met James and how I appreciate that guy. He's probably not going to hear this, but who cares? Phil, my friend, next year will be 10 years of podcasting. But even the people closest to you that you see every day, and that may be your neighbor, your best friend, just enjoy every minute. Respect the time. Don't leave out any regrets for if that person just was gone. Don't have stuff left in the future that you never got around to doing. So I mourn the loss of someone who had a great podcasting voice and insight. And just remember to take care of each other.
Before we start this episode of Krypton Report, I want to take a moment and just give a shout out here to our Patreon. I know what you're thinking. Gosh, everyone's asking for money, and I get it. But our Patreon is only $1. $1 a month. It helps us keep the podcast going. And what we do is we try to find interesting shows and topics and whatever we want to talk about. We've done, as of this little thing, our last recordings were on the Scream series. Brian and Tyler, that's me, do our own show where we record in the car, and it's kind of funny. And we talk about pop culture or whatever is going on. We also have the Supernatural podcast we've been reworking. It's taken on some time just because of life. But we do movie commentaries as well. It's something that James and I have done, what we used to do on the main show that we've started doing here. So for $1 a month on our Patreon, you can get those shows. There's at least 4 a month. Also, there's my movie pitch show that I do. But also, what we want is if you're a Patreon, you can come on. You can come on the main show if you want. Or if there's something you want to come on and talk about, we can do it as a Patreon special. So all I want is for $1 a month, think about chipping in, joining our Patreon, and you have a voice to be a part of things. Follow the link in the link tree or in the show notes below, patreon.com/KryptonReport. Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the man of tomorrow. And with me, as always, is the man in red with a beard. The Superman of red. That holly jolly fat man, Mr. James Cole.
We're a little far off from Christmas.
We're almost at Christmas with July, man. It's always Christmas in my house, giving and happiness and love and goodwill towards man, you know, all that good stuff.
Oh, that's great.
I just want to say it's nice to record when there's a little bit of sunlight still left outside. Usually we either record like late at night And sometimes we try to record in the morning, but doesn't always work out. But this is nice. This is nice. A little bit of sunlight coming in through here. But my plants are overgrown, so my window's starting to look like a forest. So it doesn't matter. There's sun shining through. You can't see. But anyways, how you doing, man? I feel like it's been forever.
It's been a little bit, but I'm doing okay. We had a wedding to go to the other night, so that was fun.
Crack a cold one. And by cold one, a fresh, refreshing Coca-Cola. We are also taking sponsorships if Coca-Cola wants to sponsor us. You know what? I'm addicted to Cherry Coke, and I would happily praise your product for money. Just give me a shout, and it'll be there. But hey, man, we got a lot to talk about, kind of. Some interesting points going on. And we're just going to kind of dive into some news and really random stuff. But are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, the Penguin show that we all know that's coming to Max has been put on hold until the writer's strike ends. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And
I saw the Hulk production.
So I'm like, okay, but I mean, I wonder how much they've shot already, if they're gonna finish it and then like put it out there or something. But I don't know. I figure we'll probably get that show next year.
I would assume.
I figure we might get Waller and the Penguin maybe next year as some sort of DC kind of something, no big movie. I mean, we have Joker too, but let's face it, that's not really what we're talking about. But something else, just to kind of keep some sort of DC flavor before 2025.
Yeah, I mean, the writer's strike definitely has put a damper on their productions and their schedules and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, people need their fair treatment and wages and everything else. So yeah, it's I mean, they gave us like a penguin red logo. Just says the penguin.
And it's in the same kind of black red font as the Batman, which I like.
Yeah. Tying the brand together.
Give us like a 2-episode short, The Catwoman.
Everything's just going to be the.
Yes, the White Stripes, the Sums, Green Day 75. If you understand that reference, you're a cool person. Let's see what else we got here. So this has been leaked. The cast, this is what we kind of theorized. The cast that's leaving Superman and Lois is going to be Sam Lane, the Cushing family, the Irons, and Chrissy Beppo are all being removed from being main cast members and could be slotted as just returning or guest stars. And we're one episode away from the finale of this season. And some people have theorized, are they going to move the show to Metropolis or something? Because of the Lex Luthor, and not because all those characters make up Smallville, So it's interesting, those storylines, what will happen with them. But it looks like we'll be maneuvering away from them being main cast members. And I mean, this season already, we've had 2 or 3 episodes without John Henry.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious what that's going to be like for the next season.
Right. Well, I'm curious as to how it's going to go as it is, because like the main villain of the season has been Mannheim and everything, and he kind of surrendered himself in that last episode there. So.
And we'll get into it like with this episode where I think they're really setting the seeds for next season. So, but I just thought that was interesting, We kind of theorized that they would kind of use them more as guest stars and weaved in.
Yeah. I wonder what I just wonder what the plan is for next season.
I don't know. Probably have to wait till after the writer's strike. So it's gonna be interesting. You know what's so funny is like we were about to after this we're gonna get we're gonna have to find a way to find a show to continue reviewing, but we're gonna have My Adventures with Superman, which I don't know how many episodes that will be, to hold us over, and then we'll figure out what to do after that and Ruby Spears. And there's always comics, of course. We know people, we know. But this was interesting. There was some sort of like Warner Brothers thing. Like I saw one post, so I'm going to repeat it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it was an announcement about animation projects. And all it said was, I looked for a bigger article, was Beast Boy, Lone Wolf, My Adventures with Superman, Batman the Caped Crusader, the Merry Little Batman film, which looked atrocious, with a Bat Family spinoff, Kite Man, hell yeah, and Creature Commandos. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. But there was a quote from Bruce Timm about Caped Crusader is everything he wanted to do in the original Batman the Animated Series, but couldn't because it was on the kids' channel. Now, what does that mean to you, James?
Because it was on a kids' channel. Ugh. I mean, I'm guessing they wanted to do stuff a little more of a mature angle.
I'm like, man, please don't tell me you're going to try to go back to like you did with the Killing Joke and have Batman trying to bang Batgirl. I'm like, come on, Bruce Timm. Like, give us I want a good Batman the anime. I want a good cartoon I can watch with my children and just enjoy. Like, Beware the Batman was too weird and dark and not fun. Justice League Action was awesome and you guys canceled it. It's like, and Batwheels is like just too odd. Like it's even my kids are like, like your daughter's probably like, F that. Like,
she watched a little bit, but she didn't follow it too much.
She's like, show me the real Batman. I don't care about his car.
She's not really only one, so it's just.
That's why she's like, that's what makes it so funny, James. She's the audience. She's the audience, and she's like, eh. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like, okay. But we did get that Harley Quinn season 4 will be dropping on July 27th. So, yay, Harley Quinn. James' favorite show. He loved that special, holiday special. Him and Bane.
It was hysterical. I mean, I'm looking forward to season 4.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. But speaking of 4, I guess there's a 4-hour cut of The Flash. And I listened to a Real Blend podcast with Andy Muschietti, and he talked about a scene that was cut that talked a little bit more about Bruce and what Bruce had been into. And by Bruce, I mean Keaton Bruce.
Right. And
I hope it's released. Because I really want to see it. But I found most interesting was them talking about how they did the Ezra and Ezra stuff. So I would really like to see that as a special feature.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those special features for the Flash.
The poor Flash is not doing so well at the box office. And I mean, I saw one person hypothesize about like the importance that we don't think about for marketing of like late night TV. And since the writer's strike, there is no late night TV, and how that's a way to promote a film and, bring awareness to something. And I was like, okay. But I'm just like, even with the Ezra of it all, like, I just don't know why this movie is not doing better. I do think it's an oversaturated month, with there being something every weekend. And people are just now getting back out to the theaters on a more continual basis.
Right. Maybe not going to the theater every single weekend.
But, I mean, let's look back like Dungeons and Dragons. That was a fun movie. But we didn't get to make it to the theater because that entire month, March March was packed. You know? And then the week after was the Mario movie. And then there was like nothing. So, I don't know, like, you know, competition is good, I get that, but spacing your film out that you have a chance of doing well. You know, when Blue Beetle comes out here in August, I think in August there's Blue Beetle, The Meg 2. I thought there's one more thing that comes out in August that is more general audience-ish. So, I don't know. But I'm sorry for everyone who worked hard on The Flash.
Yeah. I mean, I am as well. It's the movie is better than the box office is showing. Kind of the same thing we had said about Shazam. You know, the movie's better than that, but you know, it's hard to say. There's a lot of factors that can really push this movie, or that has pushed this movie away from general audiences.
And, you know, I put out a thing today. I was like, you know, I wonder how fast they'll put it out on digital. Because, like, Black Adam was like a month, right? Because it came out October 21st. And it was on digital right before Thanksgiving. So it was like a little over a month. And Shazam was under a month. Super Pets was under a month. Super Pets was like 3 weeks. It was because
that was like insane. That was a quick turnaround. What was it, like maybe 23 days, or was it less than 3?
Because it was like we went and saw it, and then we went the next week, and then I think like the week after that, it was like we bought it digitally. Like it felt like it was like 3 weeks. I mean, it was fast. And so I'm just like, this one has been hyped up. You know, they're not doing as fast on Max like they were. You know, they're taking their time more. Like, I don't think the Flash will be on Max probably till September.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't know, like, you know, Fast X, for example, turned around and it was on digital rent or buy in like 30 days or a little under 30 days. You know, and that's not part of this whole WB thing. So it's not unheard of, but I feel like they might want to try to recoup his money faster by throwing it out there for people to buy. I don't know. But speaking of fast, Christina Hodson, who wrote Birds of Prey and The Flash, will not be writing The Brave and the Bold. She opted to write Fast 11. Let that sink in for a minute. She wanted to write Fast 11. So, okay. Good job. Good luck, you know. Not winning any awards on writing for that one. And this is confusing. This is one of those gotta love it Hollywood type quotes. Gal Gadot says, "Things are being worked behind the scenes, and once the right moments arrive, you'll know about it." About her return as Wonder Woman. And we had reported that she was pretty much done. So, don't hold your breath. You know?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just really is only a waiting game to see what they do. You know, kind of after this last weekend.
And
it might, in the box office, it might just seem like it's time to kind of sever those and start fresh, start new. And
I think we might see a bigger tick in that after Aquaman.
Yeah, I mean, I know we have Blue Beetle coming up, and we can see some of the tone of Blue Beetle being much lighter, but I hope that it doesn't steer towards some of the humor that we got from The Flash. You know, I did mention too many dick jokes.
Yep, it's true.
Repeating the lasso joke with ridiculous proportions.
This isn't a Kevin Smith film, okay?
Yeah, so, I hope that Blue Beetle is a little fresh.
I hope so too.
No ties to anything. The character really doesn't, for the most part. I mean, he's in, the American Southwest, which is far away from a lot of, especially the big characters and everything that we've known and dealt with so far. He's very out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
In his own little corner, and hopefully that'll give us a little bit more of a fresh character to connect with.
I agree. I agree, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with good old the Beetle of the Blue. And
I'm looking forward to that. I actually just started getting into Cobra Kai and watched the first season. I have not watched any of it yet. I've always been interested, but I didn't have YouTube Red when it started, so I never really watched it. I never got into it, and then, a few years ago in like 2020 when it dropped on, maybe 2020 when it dropped on Netflix, I was interested, but I never got around to watching it, and obviously, with this movie coming out, kind of forced my hand, and I was excited to do so, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Cool.
Have you watched it?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Brian keeps telling me I need to, and it's kind of like in the back, like, okay, I'll get there, But
I do think so. If you enjoyed the Karate Kid movies,
I did, but it's just they never stuck with me like some people.
Right.
Love the Karate Kid. Like, it was cool. I feel like we're such a weird generation. I'm going to go on a tangent here. Because we came we were starting to come up right at the end of the 80s. So there's so much of that 80s stuff that kind of was held over that we touched on in our youth. But then, our stuff started. And then, our real childhood type stuff is starting to come back. But so much of our kind of childhood stuff was the resurgence of established properties. Like X-Men the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series. All these properties that had been around that were just being reintroduced, that we continually see. I think that's why Power Rangers stands out so big for us, is because that was something more quote-unquote original from our childhood. But how many things do we connect to because it was kind of there? Brian really latches onto a lot more of it than I do, but Thundercats, He-Man, Ghostbusters, Transformers.
For being younger, Brian is an old man.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
One old ass dude.
Even Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the Animated Series, everything, it was there, but it was when we were really young. And it was kind of on its way out while we were on our way up. So it's just interesting. You know what I'm saying? So Karate Kid was part of that. All those 80s stuff that people love.
Right.
Okay, speaking of the 80s, I did see someone post that in 1989, Indiana Jones was in theaters, Batman was in theaters, and so was Disney's animated The Little Mermaid. And now here we are.
It's kind of a weird year.
And then we just had the live action Little Mermaid. Michael Keaton's Batman reappeared. And Indiana Jones will be out on Friday. That was weirdly nicely punctuated. Thank you, James's ringtone.
You're welcome. It just missed me silencing it too.
And then this is weird, okay? We're talking about weird stuff. San Diego Comic-Con's coming up, and San Diego hasn't bounced back, man, since before the pandemic, because none of the major studios want to do anything. Warner Brothers isn't going to be there, but DC films may be there. But like Netflix, Marvel, have already said they're not going to be there. So it's just kind of like, now it's going back to just being like a comic book convention.
Yeah. I mean, if DC Films goes and nobody else does, I mean, they've got the corner, and they do have a few
film.
projects in. They've got Blue Beetle, they've got Aquaman.
Right, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
It would be perfect. It would be a perfect stage if DC Films shows up to debut like a trailer for them, but then release a smaller cut trailer for Aquaman and announce whoever you've cast for Superman Legacy. You know, or do like.
Well, heck, I don't even think they'll go that far when it comes to that. You know, if anything, it'll be a little more information on something else already in production, like Creature Commandos
or Waller.
If that's been in production.
I don't know if Penguin, they could release a trailer for Penguin and do something like
they did with the Batman.
But I'm just saying, like, it's the 85th anniversary of Superman. Like, they should have some sort of cool panel, you know, like back when they did the 75th. But it's 85. They're like, we'll wait till 100. And then, so there's all the talk about the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever. And I don't know if you ever heard about, like, years ago, the Red Notebook diary or cut or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that the same thing? But I just listened to the Kevin Smith talk about it, where like how he had gotten it, and listening to the way he got a copy of it just makes me think it's that same Red Notebook or whatever cut that had been around for a while. And so I started reading my Batman Forever book. Like I bought the novelization. So I'm like, I'm gonna read this because I'm like, you know what? I'm like, it's probably the closest I'll ever get. So, like, if the Schumacher cut is as rough and everything as I hear, like, just release it online. Like, somebody just drop it online. Kind of like somebody just find a work print of Batgirl and drop it online. It'll be okay. And then McFarlane is releasing its Doomsday figure set of Superman battling Doomsday. And I'm going to tell you, buddy, I'm a little underwhelmed. I am.
I think you're underwhelmed just because we've talked about how we would like Doomsday to just be this massive figure.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Doomsday should be as big as Darkseid. Okay. And I have the Bat Doomed or Doom Bat or whatever, the Darth Knight death metal like Batman that's like Doomsday is fighting Superman. I have that. Okay. And this Doomsday is supposed to be bigger than that. But I still feel like, man, I still think you could have, and like Doomsday has like a man bun. So I still feel like you could have made Doomsday a little bit cooler. I don't know. What do you feel?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, the look, it's very detailed. I did kind of expect it to be a little bit bigger.
That's what she said.
When they showed the scale of standing, like Superman standing next to Doomsday, I expected it to be a little bit larger, but like to see how it actually stands up next to some of the other figures. I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks.
James would like to see how it runs. Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at it because it's going to be a little bit bigger than this I have in front of me. So, but all right, that's all the news I have. Now it's just time for random discussion topics that I've typed out as I've been thinking about stuff. I did run a poll online, and I asked which speedster got the worst treatment on the Flash, and the response was Godspeed. And I pretty much knew that because Godspeed, having reread the comic, was awesome. Having seen the show, it was horrible. So, take that.
And the suit looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of the best looking speedster suits of the whole series.
So it was a bummer. Now, James, how many reviews of The Flash, how many different Flash podcasts have you listened to review The Flash?
Oh, goodness. You know what? Give me a second.
There's one more I haven't listened to, and I wonder if you have. It was on my list, and I just haven't got to it yet.
Let me see. I can easily tell you how many more I have left on here real quick. I have one more left on my queue.
Which one's one more? What do you have left?
The Supergirl.
Okay, so
Supergirl Radio.
I've done Supergirl Radio, 2 different Batman on Film social hours, the Real Blend, kind of talking about it, Fat Man Beyond, talking about it. I did, oh crap, hold on. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm trying to pull them up here. That's my problem. I did the Hall of Justice. I have not done Bat Force Radio. And I have not.
Flash podcast, the Hall of Justice, DC on Screen.
Why am I drawing a blank? Why do I suck so bad? I did Now Playing. I did Now Playings.
I did The Fire Rises.
I did The Fire Rises. And of course, Holy Batcast.
Holy Batcast.
I have not done
DC Squadcast.
That's okay. DC Squadcast and Bat Force Radio are the 2 I have not done. And always hold on.
Digging for Kryptonite.
Did Digging for Kryptonite.
Movie film. DC Alliance.
I have not listened to All Star yet. All Star Superfans yet. I'm getting there. So I have like 3 left. But anyways, listen to a lot of people talk about The Flash.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's about the end of my list.
And so I got thinking about some stuff that I have not people heard, and something that we kind of missed over because we were both like exhausted when we talked about it. But there's a really great line that Ron Livingston gives as the father, where he talks about it's easier to live in prison with the thought that she's out there living her life than it would be to be out knowing that she's gone. And I was like, that was a really strong line that we kind of just glossed over. And so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. At least I can imagine she's out there.
Right, exactly. I am happy to say my brother-in-law, Caleb, who's a cool dude that I would love to get on the show one day, and for some reason could never just quite nail him down to talk. He went and saw it today. He really loved the movie. And usually he's really hard on stuff, so it was cool. He messaged me a little bit ago. It's like, enjoy The Flash, man. We'll talk about it when we get together. I'm like, sweet. Sweet.
Cool.
Like, if I had to cast somebody like in my real life to be DC heroes, Caleb's who I would cast as like Black Adam. Or like Batman. Just because he's got that like grit and toughness. He's a good dude, but he'll like beat the shit out of you too. So. And then here's a question I posed online was, would you prefer the film to done with time travel or bury multiverse, like jumping through the multiverse on different Earths? Would we have preferred like him going to Keaton's Earth, or would we have preferred it to be like it was time travel? James, what would you have preferred?
I prefer time travel, seeing as that's the genesis of the event of Flashpoint. I mean, that's what the inspiration for everything was. So I just feel like that's probably the better way to go.
I kind of went back and forth at times because I like the time travel aspect, but just for something different where he goes to an Earth and finds an Earth where his mother lives, but then that Earth is threatened and the only hero on that Earth is an old Batman. And then he's trying, like, that's a whole different movie in the sense of, then he brings together a new team and being, you could get Supergirl and young Barry now and all this. So you could have that kind of as a separate Earth. So if they're like, we're making movies about this Earth over here now, but your other Earth, your Snyder Earth is over here, guys. Don't worry. And then I've heard this rumor going around, and someone actually made the audacity comment that if this person had showed up, it would actually save DC because they're the face of DC, and I just wanted to slap somebody online. But do you think the ending of The Flash would have been better had it been Christian Bale?
I think it would have been I think it would have been accepted as less of a cheesy for laughs cameo. You know? Mm-hmm. I mean, but then you would get people expecting maybe that's the case if he comes back. I mean, people are expecting that maybe George Clooney's coming back for Batman.
People are dumb. We know this. Okay.
So, I think it would have been a little better accepted, but I don't think it would have done anything to be like, bring people to the film because you had a hidden cameo of Christian Bale.
Right. And that's my thing is like, I don't feel like it would have mattered. Christian Bale is not my favorite Batman. And I just feel like there's something about Keaton's Batman, even though he's in a universe all by himself, technically, that feels like it would be okay with having the Flash show up in it. But Christian Bale's universe is played so straight and so realistic that I don't feel like it would have fit at all. Now, if they would have done cameo stuff differently, and we would have got something like, could you imagine if there had been a cameo or like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? Yeah, like taking off the bat cowl, like you see the Dark Knight, and like it's just a shot of him taking the cowl off. People would have lost their minds. I'm just, like it's just like people are like Christian Bale, and it's funny because technically he is the most. Well, I guess not. It's so weird because I was gonna say he's the most recent Batman, but apart from Affleck, but not because you have Pattinson. So it kind of goes Pattinson, Affleck, then Christian Bale. So it's like two Batmans back. It's weird to say that like that. So I mean, it has been 11 years.
Well, it's Keaton's people's favorite Batman, and then Christian Bale is people's favorite Batman, and then Ben Affleck is people's favorite Batman. So, I grew up and I've experienced all of them, and I do say that Affleck is my favorite Batman, but it's like, it just shows like how people can't let stuff go. We know that as Superman fans, people can't let Reeve go.
But I was listening to some of the podcasts talk about like there's this window of like how the nostalgia works about 15 to 20 years, is the best. If you go too much too forward, like it doesn't work as well. Because they were talking about like Keaton, like how that, works for a certain group of people having Keaton back. But then there's a whole audience that are just like, I don't care. And that's usually like people after us,
Right.
And that's why I'm like, Clooney, or I mean, not Clooney, technically, Bale it's been 11 years since he was Batman. So think about that. If you were like 10 years old seeing The Dark Knight Rises, you're now 21. And that's your Batman.
Oh, absolutely. There are people who Christian Bale is absolutely their Batman.
So I'm like, it could have been cool to have something with him, but he doesn't seem the kind of person that would play ball and just do it for fun. Like,
yeah,
it's not high enough art caliber for him.
Yeah, I like I said, I would have appreciated that more. I did appreciate the George Clooney. I thought it was a really funny gag.
I loved it
at the end. But I would have appreciated Bale more as maybe more of the serious tag on the end of the movie instead of like a laughable gag and then his tooth popping out.
I would have cut the tooth popping out. Like, I hate that. I really do. Like, I think it'd been cool if they could have got Christian Bale to do it and they did it kind of like a Clue ending where he says like, who the F are you? And it turns and like some theaters get George Clooney, some theaters got Christian Bale. Some got Michael Keaton. Some, because I feel like you couldn't do Robert Pattinson because then everyone's like, oh my God, the Batman is going to be part of this universe now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that wouldn't work. That's too soon. Poor Val Kilmer's too bad of health, you know. But I just think that would have been kind of interesting. Or, dude, you know what would really be kind of funny?
Heck, even a Batfleck would have been interesting if he'd have shown back up.
Get David Mazouz, who was dude, just go all out, dude. Get David Mazouz, who played him on Gotham. Yes. And then get the guy who did it on Titans. Ian whatever.
Oh, no. Ian Glenn?
Yeah, Ian Glenn, yeah. You know how much I hate him as Bruce Wayne and everything? Like,
yeah.
Just make it like every theater got a different punch ending. So it's just kind of like a ha-ha, like, you know, because we've pretty much realized, like, this isn't going to go anywhere and continue. And we've strayed from the original plan of what this movie is going to do. So could you imagine going to see the movie and be like, oh my God, with George Clooney, haha. And then you and I like went like the next day and we're watching it and all of a sudden, oh shit, Christian Bale walks up. And we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, right.
Like before the internet could catch up with everybody, like, and we realized it was like four different endings. Like, but anyways, yeah, I just feel like if Bale showed up, it becomes like, oh, he's back. Oh my God, Christian Bale's back as Batman. If it was Pattinson, it's like, oh man, they're bringing the Batman into this universe.
Yeah, with the Clooney thing, it's kind of just like, oh, well, that means nothing.
It's just, and it also kind of gives like this nice wink smile to Clooney in recognition because I enjoy George Clooney as Batman. I think he pulls off a really good Bruce Wayne. And what I've liked hearing is I like hearing this debate now online about people saying that Batman and Robin is better than Batman Forever. And I find this fascinating. Because they said Batman and Robin knew from the beginning what tone it was and what it was going to be. You know, Joel Schumacher made it the way they wanted it. But Batman Forever was trying to still be serious and dark, but with humor. And at times the tone is off because it was trying to do two things. And I find that very interesting. But hey, we got some.
Well, Batman and Robin is certainly if you play with all your action figures and you do all kinds of stuff, whatever you want to do, going from one set piece to the next.
It's true. But all right, so now it is that time of the show where we talk about Superman and Lois, because I told you we had a lot of weird tidbits to talk about. But Superman and Lois, episode 12, Injustice. Not the video game, people. Not the video game. It says, Lois and Clark clash with Jordan over his carelessness around using his powers in public. And finally, after 17 years behind bars, Lex James Luthor is set to be released from prison. I'm just saying this how I picture James if he went to prison. All right, so we'll just go.
Only I had that pull.
We'll just go for whatever. All right, we'll just start. This episode was good. It was interesting, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. Chrissy Beppo. I mean, not enough of her in this episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was really missed.
Yeah, I don't hardly recall.
I'm just joking. You don't get to care, okay? Kyle Cushing, he carried this show on his back. But no, Lex Luthor. I'm gonna let you talk first. I've been talking a lot. I'll let you talk. Go.
Well, I mean, like, you brought up the Kyle Cushing thing. Like, there's a moment in this episode where he's talking to John, and he kind of makes it seem in a way that could be taken like maybe you're getting special treatment because your dad is Superman. And it got all the way back to, he was talking to Jordan about it, and Clark heard, and he went to Kyle, and like a whole kind of like misunderstanding.
I feel that was a common theme throughout this episode of people, issues with communication.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this episode, Jordan just completely ignores any communication.
Yeah.
You know, disobeying his parents and his granddad, and like purposefully revealing himself.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, that comes from being a teenager. And
I mean, when he landed there right next to the truck and everything, right next to the overpass, I was like, oh, you little shit.
I mean, part of it's coming from being a teenager in our day and age, where, you know, you want attention, you want credit. And it is just kind of funny because, like, he does have a mask and goggles and everything, keeping him a little bit more, you know, covered. But
Yeah, and everybody calling him the Samaritan, Smallville Samaritan.
there's a Superboy term thrown in there.
Yeah.
So, but man, I want you to talk about Lex Luthor. No one cares about anything else in this episode. This is all that counts.
Okay, so Lex Luthor is released from prison. He has made arrangements to have his release hidden, so news outlets and people won't be searching for him until after he's done what he deems necessary, which is walk from prison to the Kent farm to demand Lois retire.
Because it was her words that put him away. He doesn't want to see her words ever printed again.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting, like, because once again, this kind of makes me think, like, where's Metropolis? Where's Smallville? Where's the Stryker's Island?
Yeah.
It didn't look like it was on an island when he got released. But he just started walking.
It looked like it was a county over from Smallville. Like, he knew how long it would take him to walk there because Otis was to arrive shortly after he did.
I like how Otis appears in the episode, how he basically beats Otis into submission to being his minion. So
he's got like the whole prison in submission, you know?
Once again, Lex Luthor has a beard. This is just a new thing now. First, it starts off as a little small facial hair with Cryer. And I feel like John Cryer's Lex is awesome. I still think he's kind of my favorite. But he stayed on Supergirl too long. They started to dumb him down, like they did everybody on that show in the last season. But we'll let that go. And then we got Titus Welliver with his big beard. Now we have Michael. How do you pronounce his last name? I don't want to mess it up, but with his beard, but he was blonde. You know, Lex is supposed to be a redhead, man. And we see him actually shave his head because he wants the clippers from Otis. And he tells him he's going to give him. He said, "I'll give you $5 for him." And then you find out, like, they call him the devil. And what's interesting is when he goes to the warden, he tells the warden to dial this number. And the warden's like, "That's my home number."
That's my home number.
And, like, basically he's got men at the warden's house ready to kill the warden's family. So the warden basically just turns over the prison to Lex. And we see the Lex having the guards beat the Otis and other inmates in. And what's interesting is he has them beaten in a way that he had told them earlier. Like, you'll lose your teeth. You won't be able to walk.
Yeah, the one guy's in the wheelchair. The other guy's got his jaw wired shut, trying to talk through it.
Mm-hmm. So, and then we see, like, Lex taking over, and we see him shave his head. We see him, like, use some other prisoner as a seat.
Yeah, as a chair, and he freaking beat him.
And he's been there for 17 years, because he makes... Later, when he confronts Lois and Clark, the boys, "You got pregnant, had 2 boys." And we find out Lex has a daughter.
Who was 14 years old.
So, I'm going to put James on the spot. James, do some math.
Oh, Is his daughter 41?
James.
Daughter, what?
Sure want to do that math, buddy?
Nah, 31.
This is why James doesn't know how old he is, or I let him do any of the accounting.
That's funny.
You're
just trying to make fun of me for what I did it before.
Nah, I'm just messing with him. I can't do math when someone puts me on the spot. Like the kids will ask me stuff, and I'm like, don't ask me. I have a mental block. But yeah, so his daughter is like 31, and we see a picture of her, what she looked like back then. And I was like, man, what we needed was like some really cool, like, reveal that Lex's daughter's like been around the whole time. We didn't know it was his daughter. But then I was like, there's no character other than Chrissy.
Yeah.
And there's no way that picture, that girl grows up to be Chrissy. So that doesn't work. But yeah, I'm curious, with Lex's daughter and Lex, just his whole demeanor. Like when he showed up at the Kent farm and Jordan's upstairs listening, Jonathan and Jordan are listening. And he's making threats and demands, and he's like, I'm going after Superman next. And I'm just like, nobody knows where Lex went. So what if Clark just heat visioned and destroyed Lex and Otis and just like evaporated them forever?
I mean, if he was Ultraman.
Jordan just drops down and just and he's like, what? You're welcome. Flies off. I mean, that's kind of what they did to us on Titans. Like, here's Lex Luthor. There was Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Blood from the inside out.
But what do you think about his Lex so far?
Well, I mean, he's definitely dark, They've referenced him being like the devil. Like he's definitely an evil character. Very malicious. The fact of all the inmates standing at attention at their cells and one being his stool and stuff, like, I think it's very excessive in showing how in control of everything he can be.
Yeah. Do you like his Lex so far?
I like his portrayal so far. The way he's played the character, the confidence, even when he's being beaten, because he still has a plan in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy his portrayal. That's a little separate from the presentation we're given.
I'm not 100% sold yet on him as Lex, and I say that same thing kind of how I felt about Titus. I didn't get enough time yet with him, but also I would love to get some flashback episodes or flashback scenes of him as Lex when he was more of the powerful businessman. Because this is after being in prison for 17 years and holding a grudge. And he's definitely harder edge because, I mean, they got that nice little heavy metal score when it starts with him like his own little rock score. And so I don't know, like to me, Lex is always the more dangerous when he's so loved by everybody, but yet we know who he truly is.
Right.
That's what always be like. This Lex Luthor can never be president. Like, and that's always something scary. So I don't know how I feel about him yet, or where I rank him in my Lex.
Well, I mean, even the Lex who became president, had to fight against the things that he had been tried and charged with before. So
yeah. So I don't know where I'd rank him in my lexicon of Lexes yet. Like I'm looking forward to, because they are setting him up. He'll be in the next episode, which is the last episode of the season, and then he'll be in next season. We hypothesize. So we will see, where he goes and what becomes of him. But we see at the end of the episode, just staying with our Lex thread here, he goes down to Bruno's basement where Zombified, I guess, is we're getting more of like a classic Bizarro eating rats. And then I guess he attacks Otis. So
Sounds like he rips Otis apart.
mm-hmm. What if he went down there and he just killed Lex?
Gotcha.
The writers are like, crap, they just did this on Titans. We can't kill Lex after one episode. All right. We got to figure something else out.
Oh, goodness.
But I mean, most of the episode was just focused on Lex, padding that out. And whole Jordan, bragging about himself in a third person when Junior's like, man, there's a savior. And Jordan just makes the comment about, yeah, he's probably badass.
Yeah, he's a hero. He's probably badass.
And everyone got so mad about him saying that. And at the same time, I get it, because if it hadn't come from Sarah, if it wasn't his emotions all tied up with all the Sarah crap, he probably wouldn't have said it. He'd be more humble about it. But he's so angry with her. And she's so, doesn't really care. Such a teenage girl. Towards his, feelings and stuff. Not like I hold a lot of anger towards, teenage girls.
Better lose a little bit of that before you get a teenage daughter.
Oh my God. She's 6 going on 16.
Yep. That's how it's going to feel.
Oh my God, I know. Anyway, Sarah just annoys me so much of her decisions and complain about, well, it's his too. If he's going to brag about it, I'm not going to keep a secret. I'm just he didn't say, I'm Superboy. Watch me fly. I'm just come on. Everyone's treating him as if he's walking around strutting his stuff, throwing that big energy around. Look at me, guys. Look at me.
Yeah, look what I can do as I fly.
Yeah, that would be different. He made one comment to a third person. Yes, he shouldn't have done it. I get it. Okay. But they're all talking as if Jordan's going around I'm the man. I'm the man.
Right. Well, I mean, as they know, they've all been kind of instructed to, avoid the subject, push it to the side and change the subject. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's where I go into I feel this is all about miscommunication throughout the whole episode. Everyone's kind of just not communicating correctly because they're just preparing for the arrival of my mom, aka the devil. I mean, Lex. She never listens to this show anyways. So, yeah, it was a good episode. It was one of those episodes where if it had been any other show, this would have been the mid-season change. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where we have a villain for the first half of the season, and then it leads to the creation of the second villain, and then it goes into the second half of the season with the second villain.
Right.
And this is not exactly this is kind of a last episode was kind of the end of the season ish, and this is the 2-part epilogue that's going to lead us into the next season.
Right. Well, it's the first season it was stopping everybody from being possessed by the Eradicator and turned into Kryptonians to take over Earth. And then the second season was stopping the merger of the Earths. At this point, there's not this catastrophic Earth-ending event that we're trying to avoid coming in this final episode.
Right, thank you.
So it's actually
personal.
Yeah,
it's small and it's personal. And there'll be some fight with Bizarro Superman, something where Bizarro Superman will end up turning into Doomsday or something. It'll be a big brawl. And this is where Segel comes from the future and helps Clark, and we find out it's actually a Krypton prequel. Or Krypton sequel.
Nice.
That's my theory. Yeah, it won't never come true, but that's my headcanon right now.
Hey, I mean, as it is, the way the worlds kind of look, the production quality, you could make this down the line from 200 years ago on Krypton.
Yeah, for real. It'd be cool. But yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like, there wasn't. It's one of those, like, there wasn't a whole lot going on with the Lois story. That what we did get is a really good intro of just her in the healing process, and Clark taking care of her, washing her hair and things, and
yeah, it sounds as if she's either writing in her own journal or she's writing her own story.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sounds like that's the way her narration was.
But the big part of this was the Lex of it all, and building him up and introducing him. And
yeah, I mean, they couldn't think of anything more badass than him walking. First thing him doing, walking to Lois.
And during a twister, okay, a twister comes out of and Sam Lane. Did you get some Man of Steel flashback? Sam Lane getting out. Getting people to an under the overpass, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I was looking in the back of my head. I was like, dang, how early did they know he wasn't coming back next season? They about to take Sam Lane out with a twister. Like they just went in and edited it and was like,
wow.
Okay, they're like, we're going to cut you out of the final episode. We're going to have you just get sucked up by a twister. And then of course, Clark and Jordan end up inside of it and trying to stop it. So.
Yep, they use their speed and their breath to stop the twister.
I'm just kind of like, I've watched The Flash way too much because I'm like, shouldn't he just run around the opposite direction like Barry would? You know, like fly around it and just dissolve it.
Well, if you remember in the Superman Returns game, when you have to fight the twister, you have to use your heat vision and your cold breath to balance it out, so that way the crazy spinning dissipates because you fix the warring of the hot and the cold air.
Guy can't do math, but it's breaking down the science of hot and cold inside a twister. I mean, he's a man of many talents. People.
You got me on a night when I'm burned out.
I love James. I'm just playing with him. I'm not trying to put him down. We're just having fun here.
No, don't you remember the end of that game?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I do. Because it was horrible because the final boss was a twister.
I played it hit and miss because of that time where I didn't own a video game system. My brother did. So I think I only owned like Mortal Kombat, Armageddon, and a Seen It movie trivia.
Yeah.
And I rented the Superman Returns from Blockbuster.
I mean, it's a cool thing when your Superman character can't die, but you've got to save the city. Like the city is the life meter.
It kind of sucks that game you can't buy and like download and play on an Xbox One. Like I looked. It sucks.
Yeah, you need a 360 to play it. Just like I need a 360 to play my Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Some bullcrap, man. That's how they get you.
Well, they had it, okay? Somebody had it and they did like a remaster, and then there was something to do with the rights through like Raven or Ravensoft or whatever the company was. And so like they remastered it and they sold it digitally on like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But now they no longer have the rights for it, so you can't actually buy it anymore. But it was done in a way that you can only play that version. You can't play like a backwards compatible disc from the Xbox 360. So I can't play that on my Xbox One.
I think that's just wrong. That's a whole nother story. Because bringing it back to Batman, like all things in life, they seem to do. They're doing like the remastered of all the Arkham games are coming to Switch. But they still can't remaster and put out a new edition of Arkham Origins, which I really loved Arkham Origins. I think it's a combination of, it was the first Arkham game I got to buy new. I love that it's set at Christmas. I love the snow in Gotham. And I was just so hyped when it came out for that winter feel, you know? And I hate that they have not made it available for like digital or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like they haven't put
it is backwards compatible though. So if you do have, I don't know about PlayStation 4, but if you do have an Xbox One, you can get an Xbox 360 version of Arkham Origins, and you can play it and download the backwards compatibility. It like upgrades the graphics and things like that. But you can play Arkham Origins on your Xbox One.
Well, let's just go on to GameStop tomorrow. Because I bet they have it cheap. All right. Thanks, James. Peace.
You're welcome. GameStop's closed. You might want to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, Game On is my place for like if it's past the newest gen, I'm going to Game On. Okay, so let's get into some comics here. I have not finished Superboy 3. Did you finish it? I'm not really like, I'm not into the story as much as I wanted to be, so I just haven't been following it as hard. Did you read it?
I did read it.
Give us your James quick review.
James quick review. So throughout this story, John is basically, we start where they're on the run from the Coon Space Force. Superboy is taking on the whole armada. But him and the Cosmeteers. What's that?
It's a very James thing to do.
Yes, sir. Sometimes you got to take on an army by yourself.
Amen, brother.
The one guy is a technopath for the Cosmeteers, so they are able to escape from the Khund army. They have a bunch of the experiments done by Dominator X all freed and safe. They're safe on a planet. Connor and Trav, I believe is his name. They have they've had a contentious relationship, so they're kind of like, we've been at this for weeks up here, and you're still like treating me like I'm an enemy, like I'm a weapon, and they kind of smooth things over. Dominator X has his masterpiece. He calls it Infinity. He's like splicing all of the genetic materials into one creature. I guess to be the most powerful creature. So Superboy ends up leaving, heading back to help some of the other Cosmeteers, and leaves Trav with some people, and they say you lied, and that you have to make a deal with us before the Lantern gets here. And Superboy finds out that the Lanterns never got the alert, so he has some questions for Trav. And Lantern, let's see, I thought I had here we go, Green Lantern of Sector 2828. He arrives to where the distress signal was sent from, and the people, the creatures there who were supposed to be arrested have been obliterated. And Green Lantern says, alert any lanterns in the nearby sectors. The Cosmeteers are wanted for murdering prisoners of the Green Lantern Corps, and we're bringing them in. Next, Infinity strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so Superboy in this story, he's wanted to kind of like find his new place, but in this story, people kind of point out like he's kind of repeating what he's done before, joined a team, saved some people, that kind of stuff. So it's still a story about Superboy trying to find his place in the universe and among the super family.
It's true. It is true.
So this one was a quick read.
What did you think of? Okay, you read Steelworks #1.
I did read Steelworks #1.
I did too. I liked it. I'm intrigued by this book. I like John Henry. I think he's a good character. So my tablet is dead thanks to my daughter. I didn't realize it was at 1% when I brought it in here. So my comics were digital. So
okay.
I can't grab them to pull them up. I was trying to do that, and I was like, oh, I didn't pay enough attention to see that it's dead. So thanks, daughter.
Yeah. Well, we got John Henry Irons introducing Steelworks, starting it up. There is a guy who kind of sees the news broadcast on TV, and he's not happy to see it. He is talking to Natalie about trying to have the world safe to be in without the supers. That everybody's just looking, always looking up to see who's going to save them, instead of, his goal is for people to be safe without the supers.
Look up to be saved from James. Only James can save us now.
We got Lana and John Henry together. So kind of see what's that relationship is still continuing.
Good.
Yep.
As it should. That's one thing I've been needing from the TV series. I feel like they're seeding, but we'll not see anything happen with.
Yeah. Thing that I think is interesting is he says, get a sense of what the rest of the supers think of the plan. And Lana says, and what if they're not enthused? He says, well, it's not a dictatorship, it's a democracy. I think the supers would be happy that people are safe, that they don't need, or that they're safe from if they have to take action. The structure of buildings, the strength of the materials, was part of the demonstration that Steelworks had in the back of the action books leading up to this. This guy who threw his cup at the TV is walking. He gets picked up by a guy named Walker, I believe was his name. He takes him. He says that he purchased all of Ameritech, all of the weapons manufacturer that was using John Henry's designs when he quit.
Yeah.
They were using them for military applications, and he didn't want that. So they end up doing an experiment on this guy, and he can go through walls, but not his clothes.
It's also like James.
Yes, I can walk through walls and leave my clothes behind.
It's scary, people.
It's a fun trick.
It makes that scene in The Flash a whole different ballgame when you're hanging out with James.
I would never do it on the unsuspecting and unwilling.
Next time you need to watch what you define as unsuspecting. I'm just playing, people. James is cool.
Anyways, Steelworks R&D, intruder alert. And Natalie has all of the all security divisions, and there's an explosion at the front door and next collateral damage. So, not sure what all the explosions are from. We kind of end there. The guy runs away, and I don't know what his powers are or what's going to happen.
He was listening to Baby Shark. He was running away.
Baby Shark.
Exactly.
Yeah. They were playing that and throwing candy for the kids at the wedding.
I just like somebody posted in 10 years that songs going to drop out of club and people are just going to lose their junk.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So anyways, Steelworks is cool. We did read Superman number 5. I liked Superman number 5. This book was... I wanted to message you as soon as I finished reading it because I was so excited. but you hadn't read it yet. So
Yeah, I read it this morning.
So I was so bummed because I was like, "Oh my God, James!"
Yeah, it was a really good book.
It just, I don't like. It just we do enough of these. Like you start to see patterns in the story where you're like, okay, but man, so this book I'm gonna try to do it by memory, okay? Because I don't have it in front of me thanks to Selah. Basically, it starts off with him fight. It starts off with like a quick condensed version of how Jimmy met Siobhan and how they fell in love. And they hadn't said it to each other yet. And you feel like Dr. Farm had came to her and basically said she was going to help him stop Superman or he would kill everyone she loved. So it means he's going to kill Jimmy. And Silver Banshee. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, Silver Banshee.
I don't know. Too many colors. Basically is fighting Superman, and it was really good because we see like Jimmy's trying to stop Superman from hurting her, and it basically he's able to stop her, and they find out what's going on. Supercorp has a gun to like take out every one of Superman's villains. He's like, "Do you have a gun for everything?" Like, yes.
Right.
And
yeah, he's like, how have you already produced all this stuff?
And basically he gets a way for her to scream into it and, get out her scream, and it damages his super hearing. He still has his hearing, but it damages his super hearing. And earlier in the book, there's this part with Clark talking about hearing and how he hears everything. And, so, and then it damages his hearing. And I'm trying to remember because I don't want to jump to the end yet. But basically at the end, he's at the club seeing Siobhan's van with Jimmy and Lois on a date. And it's parallel. Like you have 2 panels per page. One's Clark, one's Lex. And Lex is going back to a cell and he's trying to talk to Superman, but Clark can't hear him. And we see how happy Clark is. With everything because he's not, he doesn't hear the whole world. He doesn't block it out. And basically, the book ends with Lex getting shanked in prison and bleeding out, saying, "Save me, Superman," and he can't hear him. I was like, "Dag, that's good."
Yeah, that's a cliffhanger ending, especially since to be continued in Superman 2023 annual in August and Superman number 6 in September because Night Terrors.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this. With Night Terrors, if we're just going to kind of touch on it, or we'll wait till like the event's over and then go back and hit the event or whatever,
Yeah.
I definitely I'm trying to figure out why they're doing Night Terrors in the middle of July, like June, July. Like,
yeah, it should have been lined up for October.
Should have been a
September, October. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But yeah, we'll figure out how we're going to do this because it's definitely a cliffhanger to leave you on. But I like seeing Silver Banshee. She's definitely a character I feel like needs explored more. All right, the only other thing I have is Superman Lost 3 and 4, which I read them, but I don't remember it. Like, I'm not really enjoying the title as much. I feel like it would be, I don't know, maybe if it wasn't like a 12-issue thing. Isn't that what's supposed to be like 12 issues?
I think so. I think that's what it says on the cover.
I feel like maybe this is one that I just need to read in one sitting. Because I feel like there's a lot of emotional weight it's trying to build up to. But I feel like reading it every month, little by little, I'm not connecting as much and with his journey. Because we have these parts that are kind of like detaching us from him talking with Lois. But then he talks about how he had to hold his breath for like 2 years. And floating in space for 2 years, and just like that is scary.
Yeah.
So
It does have an intensity to it about things happening. Like in this issue, the white suit that he's wearing is like a solar battery suit. And he even has a comment that it's like trying to run something with like a small charge.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, but I'm going to put this to a vote with you, James.
This is like he says. It says like using a pair of AA's to power a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So the suit is supposed to help absorb any solar radiation as he's, like floating through space.
I kind of want to put it out there to you. If you want to continue to do this by issue, or just wait till it's done and then just do a whole episode on it.
I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, this issue, like 2 was a little bit, boring. This issue actually had me a little bit more. The space dolphins that we know of mostly from Lobo.
Mm-hmm.
Lobo loves dolphins, and there is a church to the space dolphins or something that he was like a part of. So like Clark uses them and uses them to be able to traverse across space much more quickly than he would have been able to, because it was like so many thousand light years from Earth, how long it would take him to get there. And traveling with these beings, these space dolphins, he actually covers quite a large distance.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets to this planet that is hidden by some sort of storm that kind of traps the dolphins, and he finds out that the dolphins actually feed on some sort of protozoa-like creatures on this planet, who can actually like bond together to create, like, they create giant sand or stone Superman and Lois, because they've kind of got like a telepathy thing going on. So he's like, he wants to save them from the dolphins and get the dolphins free of the trap, to try and still use them to be able to get home. And they end up taking off without him, and he can't keep up. And he seems like lost in space again, but this time without all of his belongings. His rig that he was carrying with him that was helping him survive got caught in their wake and dragged away.
Yep.
So there's a level of intensity to this story.
There is, and I think that's why, like, I'm saying, like, I kind of want to just wait till it's done and sit and just experience the entire journey.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because, like, I feel like I get hit with this intensity, but then it's so long to the next book that I have to, like, get myself back there. But I feel like if I was just reading it continual, I would just be there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I would prefer to do. But anyways, so all right. The only other thing I have marked down is World's Finest 15 and 16. Did you read either of those yet?
So 15 is out on the app. 16's not out.
16's not on the app. That's right.
Yeah, and neither was number 4. Superman Lost number 4.
Yeah, that's just released. Since we're just doing the app stuff.
Yeah. There's a few books here that we talked about that we had our hands on that we got when they came out. But these other books we're talking about on Ultra. Because I love having Ultra.
I do too. I'm doing a deep reread of, like, Rebirth and, like, the Titans. Anything connected to, like, Wally and Barry. So, like, just continue my Flash stuff.
Mm. Well, that's kind of a big deal in the dawn of DC because there is no Justice League right now. Titans is kind of stepping up.
Yep, I have been reading Titans.
Yeah, I read. I don't think I read issue 2 yet, but I did read issue 1. I think issue 2 just came out this week.
It did. But yeah, I'm enjoying World's Finest, and it's kind of weird because it's like it plays into stuff, but at the same time, like it's still kind of in the past. So,
yeah, this issue was kind of cool. We have the Ultra Metamorpho or
yep, Amazo.
Yeah, Meta Amazo or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he's too powerful for Robin, but he's being able to be kryptonite to weaken Superman.
He's not too powerful for James Cole.
Metamorpho and Batman show up, and Batman's wearing a suit of armor of all of the Metal Men. He's able to rescue all of the Metal Men from their vats and be able to create them in armor. There is a robot mechanic who is like taking over people's minds, taking over Robot Man's minds. Got an appearance of Doom Patrol here.
Mm-hmm.
They're all fighting against this Ultra Amazo, and Metamorpho creates himself as like a lead suit to fight against, so he can be protected against the kryptonite. But he splashes acid on them, and that automatically removes Metamorpho from Superman.
It's pretty sad.
Yeah. Robin got a bunch of acid on his leg, and they call for a retreat. And for some reason, we are in Colorado with the Challengers of the Unknown.
Because Mark Waid.
Yeah, fighting off a giant mech. It's only one page. But I mean, he brought in the Doom Patrol and Titans and Metamorpho and Amazo and all of that within this run. So
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying World's Finest. I love Dan Mora's art.
The art's great.
I've been reading the Shazam him and Mark Waid are doing, where Mark Waid just like brought it back to the character. He's like, they just call him the Captain now. He's the Captain. Which I feel bad.
That's on my list.
I feel bad because I'm just like, this character has no real name, you know? Like, it lost Captain Marvel. Thank you, Marvel Comics. Can't say Shazam, and people are like, oh, you can't say his, the word without it taking his power. And I'm like, but I feel like it's when you say it with intention, like what you're trying to say, because how he calls down the lightning sometimes and uses it as a weapon. But yeah, they're just like, he's the Captain now. I'm like, okay. All right. I'll roll with it.
Well, Superman and Batman they wake up and they are imprisoned with a bunch of people, a bunch of tech people, advanced robotics people. Ivo is even prisoner, and so is Amazo. And they are all imprisoned by Amazo 2.0, New Mazo.
Yeah, I like New Mazo.
I thought that was funny. New Mazo. Robin is trying to find Supergirl, believing that Supergirl can help him since Batman and Superman are lost. And the Batmobile is taken over. Gets that purple light like all the eyes had, that were being controlled earlier, like Robot Man.
Mm-hmm.
And the Batmobile is driving head-on to a wall. It's Rise of the Robot Overlords. It's the end of World's Finest. You know that he's doing a World's Finest Super Sons book?
Good.
Coming up in a couple of months. Mark Waid is.
Good.
So, yeah. It's kind of getting a big old resurgence there at DC with a lot of books.
Yeah, Mark Waid is back and reshape. I mean, I feel like Mark Waid kind of just is helping reshape DC with the dawn of DC.
Right. I mean, it kind of seems that way. It's, you know, he wrote a lot of the Lazarus Planet and is writing a lot of books post Lazarus Planet. And his World's Finest and Batman vs. Superman run has helped lead up to that Lazarus Planet event.
Yep, it did. It was the Devil Neza surprised us all.
Yeah.
By being important. We're like, dang it. You pulled a fast one on us. All right, here. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got. We're all kind of caught up for now. Like I said, Superman Lost, we're gonna wait and we'll do it as an entire episode and just really kind of dive into the meat of the story and really kind of let that story connect with us.
Right. I think the idea of him, you know, being gone for 20 years to him, but for her it not being but a second.
It's like it's like the Odyssey in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very impressive, a very interesting concept, very interesting idea. But you know, it's kind of the journey as a whole, I think, is how you want to reflect on it as opposed to each and every step.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We are now going to curl up and fight crime. Ready, James? Let's go.
We'll fight crime in my dreams.
Yeah, that's what I do. You don't fight crime in your dreams? It's flying around, kicking butt, taking names? I do. But all right, everybody. Tune in next week as James and I will be excited for the finale of Superman and Lois. And then July is going to kick off, and we'll be reviewing, of course, My Adventures with Superman. But we got some fun activities, some lively discussions coming up in July. I hope everyone enjoyed Flash Week and listened to our past episode where we talked to Mr. Black Lightning himself, Cress Williams. Until then, remember,
Look up in the sky.
we just want to say, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network. $1 a month, you'll get extra special content that you don't get on the main show, like movie commentaries and whatever else comes out of our mouths. So check it out, patreon.com/crypto.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough super talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, The Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope.
Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. You find all of our information. We're going to press pause and hear a few words from our other podcasts on Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
Report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.